Golden Blue Dude back with another video just for you, the college football fan. So if you are a college football fan, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. That's all we do here every single day. And don't forget to go ahead and check out our Patreon page. I call our Patreons the shot callers because they call the shots around here. I'll be doing a Patreon live show and a regular live show tomorrow. What's the difference? Well, in the Patreon live show, the audience is smaller, so I can talk about stuff that I can't talk about in regular videos and regular live shows. Also, don't forget to check out our website, designed and created by Joey Foster. We now have 9 great writers, led by our 2 head writers, Michael Walker and Scotty B. the Baylor King. I'll start my preview and prediction videos tomorrow. It starts tomorrow, guys. But today, we're going to talk about ESPN updating their way too early top 25 poll again. I think this is about the 3rd update that they've done. And once again, I think they got a lot of stuff wrong again. First, I'm going to talk about the honorable mentions that didn't make their way too early top 25. We'll start with the group of 5 teams. The group of 5 teams that I think has a chance of getting in the top 25 this year are Nevada, San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State, Utah State, UCF, Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State, East Carolina, and Memphis. Now let's talk about the Power 5 teams that didn't get mentioned, that I think definitely has a shot to make the top 25. First team is South Carolina. Yes, they went 7-6 last year, 109th in scoring, that's not good, and 46th in defense. Well, they had the number 25 recruiting class and the number 7 transfer portal class. So I think South Carolina will take a big jump in the SEC East, possibly contend for that 2nd spot in the SEC East. Next Power 5 team that didn't get mentioned that I think will make the top 25 this year is UCLA. And they went 8-4 last year, so they won't be coming out of nowhere. They had a decent year last year. Very good offensive team, 13th in the nation. Not good on defense though, in the 70s. They had the number 57 recruiting class, but that was because of number. They actually had 6 4-stars in that recruiting class and number 5 in the transfer portal. Look for UCLA to be a contender in the Pac-12 South this year. Canes of Miami is the next team I want to talk about. They went 7-5 last year, 23rd in scoring, 85th in defense, number 16th recruiting class, and number 9 transfer portal class. I think Miami wins the Coastal in 2022. Penn State's the next team I'm going to talk about. They went 7-6 last year. They have a great coach in James Franklin. The problem last year was their offense, 90th in scoring. They had a great defense, number 7 in the nation. They have the number 6 recruiting class. Didn't do all that well in the transfer portal, but they have a lot of talent at Penn State. Look for Penn State to have a big bounce back here in the Big Ten. Purdue's my next team that I'm going to talk about, did not make ESPN's way too early top 25. Last year they had a magical 9-4 season. Not a very good offense, 62nd, but a pretty good defense, number 34. They had a number 37 recruiting class, and they didn't do so well in the transfer portal. But Purdue has enough pieces, and the Big Ten West isn't going to be all that strong, so it is possible that Purdue could repeat a pretty good year like they had last year and get ranked. Wisconsin is another Big Ten West team that I'm going to talk about. They went 9-4 last year. Terrible offense, 85th in the nation, but a really good defense, the 4th best defense in the nation. They had a number 45 recruiting class, that's not great, and they did so-so in the transfer portal, the number 38 transfer portal class. I think Wisconsin has the potential of having a 10-win season in 2022. Finally, the last team that I'm going to mention that did not make ESPN's way too early top 25, Kansas State. Kansas State went 8-5 last year. Not a great offense, 76th in the country, but the 23rd best defense in the country. Pretty good defense. Nothing to brag about in their recruiting class, number 63, but a decent transfer portal class, number 30. I think Kansas State is going to be a sleeper in the Big 12. Watch out for Kansas State, and I definitely think they will get ranked in the top 25. Now time for the actual updated way too early top 25 for ESPN. Starting at number 25, Iowa dropping 10 spots. They were at number 15. Last year they went 10-4. They returned 7 on offense, 7 on defense. They averaged 23.3 points per game. Not very good offense, but only allowed 19.2 points per game. That was good enough to be number 13. They have the number 30 recruiting class. Didn't do all that well in the transfer portal at all. 122. Iowa's going to have to rely on that defense, and if that offense can be just a little bit better, they can repeat a 10-win season. Number 24 is going to be Tennessee. They were non-ranked in the last way too early top 25 for ESPN. Last year they went 7-6. They returned 8 on offense, 8 on defense, so a lot of experience coming back. They were the number 7 offense last year, but not a very good defense, allowing 29.1 points per game. They had the number 18 recruiting class. They did okay in the transfer portal, number 40. I expect Tennessee to make a nice jump. They'll be right up there with South Carolina and Kentucky, bidding for that 2nd spot in the SEC East. One of those teams could knock off Georgia for that top spot. Number 23, Cincinnati, down 4 spots. Of course, they went 13-1 last year, made the playoffs. They returned 7 on offense, but just 2 on defense. That's going to hurt them. They had the number 11 offense and the number 5 defense, but only 2 of their defensive starters coming back. They had the number 42 recruiting class. Best group of 5 recruiting class. Didn't do so well in the transfer portal. I think this is about right for Cincinnati. Number 22 is going to be Kentucky. They went 10-3 last year. They finished 2nd in the SEC East, and I correctly predicted that last year. They fell 1 spot. They returned 7 on offense, 7 on defense. They had a number 36 offense and the the number 26 defense, so a very balanced team. They have the number 14 recruiting class and the number 27 transfer portal class. Kentucky is going to have talent. The only thing that might keep them from having as good of a season as they did last year, Tennessee, South Carolina going to be much better this year. Number 21, Ole Miss. They're actually up 2 spots. Last year they went 10-3. They returned 5 on offense, 6 on defense. Number 24 offense in the nation. A little bit better of a defense this year. Number 51. They have the number 24 recruiting class and the number 2 transfer portal class. Look for Ole Miss to make some big noise in the SEC West. Number 20, staying in the SEC West, Arkansas. They went 9-4 with the toughest schedule in the nation. That's a pretty good record. They returned 6 on offense, but just 3 on defense. They had the number 48 offense last year and the number 39 defense last year. And the number 28 recruiting class, number 8 transfer portal class. I was impressed with that. I think Arkansas will be a contender in the SEC West, but probably will finish in that 2-3 spot right there with Ole Miss. Number 19, BYU. They went 10-3 last year, and I'll be the first one to admit it. I was dead wrong about BYU last year. They were down 1 spot in the latest rankings. They returned 8 on offense and 11 on defense. They had the number 29 offense last year and the number 52 defense. Could be better. Hey, they returned all 11 starters. Number 55 recruiting class, nothing to brag about, and the number 56 transfer portal class. So they did okay in the offseason. I expect BYU to have another 10-win season. Number 18 is going to be Baylor. They went 10-3 last year, dropping 2 spots surprisingly. They returned 7 on offense, 6 on defense. Last year they averaged 31.6 points per game. That was good enough for 40th, but their defense is what carried them. 18.3 points per game is what they allowed. That was number 10. They had the number 36 recruiting class. That's decent. Didn't do so well in the transfer portal though. Number 77 transfer portal class. I do think Baylor will be a contender in the Big 12, but they might have a slight downtick in 2022. Number 17, Wake Forest. They went 11-3 last year, down 3 spots. They returned 8 on offense. That's a big deal. 6 on defense. Last year they were number 4 in offense. Not a very good defense. Number 88, 71st recruiting class, 105th in the transfer portal. So it's a good thing they returned a lot of talent because they didn't do much for themselves in the offseason. However, I do think Wake Forest drops this year. I think NC State and Clemson are going to be much better teams this year, and that's what's going to hurt Wake Forest. Number 16, Oregon, down 4 spots. They went 10-4 last year. 6 coming back on offense, 7 coming back on defense. Basically average on both sides of the ball. Number 42nd scoring offense and the number 75 defense. They do have the number 13 recruiting class and the number 18 transfer portal class. So a lot of talent coming in. I think Oregon will win the Pac-12 North again. Number 15 is Pitt. From non-ranked to number 15. After all they lost, last year they went 11-3. They returned 8 on offense, 7 on defense. But 2 of those losses on offense, Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison, that is going to hurt, guys. They had the number 3 offense last year, averaging 41.4 points per game, and the 42nd defense last year. So an okay defense. Not a great recruiting class, number 74. Not a great transfer portal class in 47. And the biggest thing that Pitt fans like to say whenever it comes to the backyard brawl is Pitt's going to have a better defense than West Virginia. Not so fast, my friends, because West Virginia's defense allowed 23.8 points per game, which was 45th. Very similar defenses. And West Virginia's offense is going to be much better this year. That's why I like the Mountaineers. And I think Miami dethrones Pitt for the Coastal title. Number 14, this is where Oklahoma comes in, up 3 spots. They went 11-2 last year. Just 4 starters on offense coming back and just 5 starters on defense coming back. Last year they had the number 8 offense in the nation, averaging 39.1 points per game, and just the number 60th defense. So not great on defense. But Brent Venables is a defense guy. So their defense will be better. They have the number 8 recruiting class and the number 4 transfer portal class. I still think Oklahoma drops a little bit in 2022. Don't worry, Oklahoma fans. It's just growing pains. Oklahoma will be back with a vengeance in just a few short years. Number 13, Houston, possibly the best group of 5 team this year. Last year they went 12-2. They returned 7 on offense, 5 on defense. Pretty good on both sides of the ball. The number 15 offense and the number 19 defense. 50th recruiting class, nothing to brag about. 44th transfer portal. So can they have another magical season? Enough talent is coming back, but I don't see 12-2. But still a possible 10-win season. Number 12, this is Clemson, and they fell 1 spot. Last year they went 10-3. 10 on offense coming back and 6 on defense. Problem is they had a bad offense last year. Only 26.3 points per game. That was number 82. But the number 2 defense allowing just 14.8 points per game. Yeah, the number 10 recruiting class. Now I don't even want to talk about transfer portal because it was number 153. We're not going to worry about that. I think Clemson has the talent to contend in the ACC Atlantic. I think it's going to be between Clemson and NC State. Number 11 is where Oklahoma State is. Last year they finished 12-2. They fell 1 spot. 7 on offense, offense, 4 on defense coming back. They averaged 31.1 points per game. That was 46th. And allowed just 18.1 points per game. That was number 9. But only 4 starters on defense coming back. They had the number 29 recruiting class. And they finished 86th in the transfer portal. I think Oklahoma State could take a slight step backwards, but they'll still have enough to contend in the Big 12. Now we're in the top 10. Number 10, Michigan fell 1 spot. Last year they went 12-2. 8 on offense coming back, 4 on defense coming back. Decent offense last year, averaging 35.8 points per game. That was number 16. But a great defense, allowing 17.4 points per game. That was number 8. They had the number 9 recruiting class. Didn't do well in the transfer portal at all. Number 73. It might be their offense that carries them this year. And I do think Michigan will be a factor in the Big 10 East, but they're not going to be quite as good as what they were last year. Number 9 is Michigan State. Last year they finished 11-2. They were down 1 spot. 5 on offense coming back, but 9 on defense coming back. They averaged 31.8 points per game. That was enough for 39th, and allowed 25.3 points per game. Not as good of a defense as I thought. That was 54th. They did have the number 23 recruiting class, and they finished 15th in the transfer portal so far. Michigan State will have the talent to contend in the Big 10 East. They could take a step forward above Michigan, but I don't think they're catching Ohio State. Number 8 is NC State. High expectations in Raleigh. Last year they finished 9-3. They are down 1 spot. 8 starters on offense coming back. 9 starters on defense coming back. They averaged 33.1 points per game. That was 28th. And allowed 19.7 points per game. That was 14th. So a great defense. Not a good recruiting class. 64th. Not a very good transfer portal class either. 122nd. So they will be relying all those starters coming back. And I do think it will be enough for them to be contenders in the ACC Atlantic. Like I said before, it's going to be between NC State and Clemson. Number 7 is Notre Dame. They're down 1 spot. They finished 11-2 last year. 7 offensive starters coming back. 7 defensive starters coming back. They were pretty good on both sides of the ball last year. 35.2 points per game. That was 20th. Allowed just 19.7 points per game. That was 15th. They had the number 7 recruiting class. Didn't do well in the transfer portal though, number 73. But I think Notre Dame has a lot of talent coming back. But their schedule is much tougher this year. So I think Notre Dame actually takes a step backwards. Not because they're going to be worse, but because that schedule sets up to be much more difficult this year. They could be looking at an 8-4 or 9-3 season. Number 6 is going to be Utah, dropping 2 spots. Last year they went 10-4. 6 stars on offense coming back. 6 stars on defense coming back. Decent on both sides of the ball. 36.1 points per game. That was good enough for 14th and allowed 22.6 points per game. That was good enough for 35th. They have the number 38 recruiting class and the number 45 transfer portal class. I think Utah has enough to be a contender in the Pac-12 South. Well, look out for UCLA, and I talked about them earlier. UCLA is going to be a contender in the Pac-12 South this year. Number 5, Texas A&M finished a disappointing 8-4. They do have 6 stars on offense coming back, 4 stars on defense coming back. They only had the 56th best offense, but on defense they only allowed 15.9 points per game. That was good enough for 3rd, but only 4 stars coming back. They did have the number 1 recruiting class. They didn't do too well in the transfer portal, number 101. I think Texas A&M will have the talent, but they won't have the coaching. They could be looking at another 8-4 or a 9-3 season this year. Remember, you're not going to be able to count on beating Alabama, so that's going to be an automatic loss. Yes, I see 2 or 3 more losses besides Alabama. Number 4, shockingly, USC up 8 spots. They finished 4-8 last year. They returned 6 on offense, 5 on defense. They were terrible on both sides of the ball last year. Number 65 on offense, number 103 on defense. Had the number 65 recruiting class, but that was because it was small. They won the transfer portal though, at least as of right now. Number 1. Is that enough for USC to be a playoff contender? Because according to this, number 4, that's a playoff contender. I'm not convinced yet. Look, I think USC is going to have a bounce back year, but a playoff contender, I don't think so. They might possibly sniff a 10-win season this year. That's a big bounce back year. But there's a lot of issues on defense. Too many for USC to be a playoff contender. Number 3 is going to be Georgia. They stay the same. They finished 14-1 last year. National champions. 7 starters on offense coming back. 4 starters on defense coming back. That's what's going to hurt Georgia. They were pretty good on offense last year, averaging 38.6 points per game. That was number 9. Number 1 defense in the nation, and maybe the best defense I've ever seen, allowing 10.2 points per game. Number 3 recruiting class, and they didn't even register in the transfer portal. So I think the thing that's going to hurt Georgia is losing all those NFL starters on defense, which is basically what carried Georgia last year. So I think Georgia's going to be good like they are every year. 10-win season, but they're definitely going to be scared way more this year than last year. Last year they basically coasted through the regular season. That's not going to be the case this year. In fact, I think South Carolina will upset Georgia in Columbia this year. Number 2 also stays the same. Ohio State, they finished 11-2 last year. 6 offensive stars come back. 7 defensive stars come back. They averaged 45.7 points per game last year. That was the number 1 offense, but allowed 22.8 points per game. So the number 38 defense. So they have some things to work on the defensive side of the ball. Number 4 recruiting class. They recruited at a high level. Didn't do so well in the transfer portal though. Number 70. They have enough starters on defense coming back to where they have experience. Maybe they can fix that defense. And I do think Ohio State will be a playoff contender in 2022. Finally, number 1, it stays the same. Alabama. Last year they finished 13-2. Got to the national championship. Got beat by Georgia. They have 5 offensive stars come back. 7 defensive stars come back. Last year they averaged 39.9 points per game. That was number 6. Allowed 20.1 points per game. Number 18. Pretty good on both sides of the ball. They had the number 2 recruiting class right behind Texas A&M. And they were number 6 in the transfer portal. So Alabama definitely had a great offseason. And that's why I think Alabama will be the best team in the nation this year. I expect them to go undefeated. They'll probably coast through the regular season just like Georgia did last year. And I think Alabama will be our national champions in 2022. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you agree with ESPN's way too early top 25 update? I think there's a lot of flaws in there. Some glaring flaws. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.